I have a story that's both heart-wrenching and full of lessons about trust, resilience, and finding strength in the face of betrayal. Imagine discovering that your spouse, someone you've built a life with, has been plotting against you with friends, trying to frame you for infidelity. How would you react? What steps would you take to protect yourself and your family? This story begins with a husband whose life took an unexpected twist when he uncovered his wife's elaborate scheme to ruin him. It started innocently enough, with a stressful period where he was working hard to secure a better future for his growing family. His wife seemed supportive at first, but soon her behavior started to change. She became secretive, more invested in her appearance, and glued to her phone. The husband, sensing something was off, decided to investigate. What he found was devastating. His wife and her friends were conspiring to set him up. Armed with evidence, he confronted them, and the confrontation led to a shocking scene. But this story isn't just about betrayal. It's about how he managed to navigate through the pain, make tough decisions, and ultimately find peace and closure. Stick around as we dive deeper into this tale of betrayal and resilience. You'll hear how he balanced his career ambitions with the demands of a rocky marriage, how he protected his children, and the invaluable lessons he learned about trust and personal growth. This story serves as a powerful reminder that even in the darkest times, we can find the strength to rise above and create a better future for ourselves and our loved ones. Let's get into it.
I found out my cheating wife was planning to trap me, so I took advantage and avoided all her friends. A few years ago, my dad got sick and had to be hospitalized, and this made my life miserable. An unexpected turn during a trip to see my father. The woman turned out to be the intern nurse who took care of him that special day. We started chatting, and we both immediately felt a connection to each other as time passed. Dad, I was aware of his son's concern and provided me with that nurse's contact information. A few days later, I mustered up the courage to call her, and I was so happy that she remembered so clearly every detail of our conversation. We decided to meet again, and that was it. How I originally knew my wife. Our relationship has grown into something deeper and more meaningful than just friendship. I have come to the conclusion that she is the one I want to spend the rest of our lives, and our bond got even tighter as the days passed. We didn't wait more than a year to get married after 2 years of waiting. We could finally call I am the parent of a little girl when I was 30. During that time, we were also fortunate to have a beautiful 2-year-old daughter. Our lives took an unexpected turn when my wife became pregnant again. Although we were delighted by the news, I couldn't help but feel a little nervous about how its timing would turn out, though. Even though I was working as an SEO expert and in a stable financial situation, the prospect of having 2 young children close in age was dire. I thought it might be best to wait a year before having a second child, which would give us more time to prepare both mentally and financially for the possibility of having another child. When I told my wife what I was thinking, she was completely focused on listening and understanding my concerns. On the other hand, she was honest with me about what I was thinking. The difficulties the doctor described raised doubts about whether we would be able to conceive in the future after hearing this. I couldn't help but feel conflicted between my own desires and my wife's concerns afterward, so I decided to handle the situation myself. To increase my chances of landing a higher-paying job, I committed to developing my talents as an SEO professional. I locked myself away for the next few months, participating in various online courses and improving my knowledge and skills. As a result, sadly, my pursuit of professional development also resulted in an emotional gap between my wife and me as a result of my decision to devote most of my day to my studies. The amount of time we were able to spend together decreased significantly. I was only able to reunite with my wife and daughter on the evening of forming the bond that once existed between the two of them. We were something that I was missing, and I was aware that I needed to address the problem. My wife and I had an honest conversation about how we felt one evening after dinner. I revealed that, like me, she was also looking for work to support her family's goals and alleviate some of her hardships. The strain on our finances, her willingness to support me in good times and bad, surprised me as much as her lack of altruism. I was moved by my wife's dedication, and it made me realize that we needed to find a way to strike a balance between pursuing our goals and working towards our relationship, because we realized that our love and bond were the foundation on which our family could grow. We came to the conclusion that we need to spend more time and effort together for the rest of our lives. Myself, through all the inevitable ups and downs, but it is always anchored in the great love that my wife and I have for each other, and for our children. We trust each other and vow to be together. Overcoming all difficulties, we predict that the coming years will be filled with joy for our family. It has been a year and a half since our second child was born, and in that time significant changes have taken place in both my life and my wife's. At this time, we are both on due and our children are growing at a rapid pace thanks to the help of my wife's male friend Close, who offered her the job to which my wife is currently contributing. Member of the workforce and I have been promoted to a higher position at another company. At first, it seemed like we were going to have a smooth life together over dinner. We would share stories about our work, colleagues, and experiences, as well as discuss our private dates whenever I asked, "How is my wife doing?" She'll tell me how happy she is with her new job and how great her team is. She always paid attention to her close friend, who was instrumental in helping her hire a change in my wife's attitude, acting in ways that are not normal for her. And what is worrying is that she is always glued to her phone, and the amount of money she spends on clothes and makeup continues to increase rapidly. I also see that she is taking a shower right after work, and she is making an effort to keep herself looking sophisticated by doing things like shaving her legs regularly. Her previous approach to personal care had been quite relaxed and easy going, so this marked a significant mental change one of the evenings. I mustered up the courage to bring up the topic of discussion with my wife. I approached her in a gentle tone and asked her about the changes I had noticed and whether everything was okay after a while. After a short period of hesitation, my wife finally explained that after getting pregnant, she began to feel insecure about her appearance. She decided to try to feel better about herself, and as a result, she started investing in her appearance by going to the gym, buying new clothes and makeup in the meantime. I could sympathize with her problems, reassure her that she was great in her natural state, and I supported her efforts to boost her confidence for a week. Then, when I sat together watching the news, we became interested in a particular topic. It's the story of a couple who had a heated divorce after the wife discovered messages on her husband's phone saying he was cheating on her. The wife's discovery made her believe that her husband was having an affair. Having an affair with another woman, I express my opinion on the subject and state that I could never imagine getting to a place in a relationship where one feels the need to violate your spouse's privacy by tracking their phone. I said I could never understand getting to the point that while I was talking, I saw an expression of insecurity and worry flash across my wife's face for a split second before she took it back, calmed down, and continued to listen to me. My strong observation was captured in that look, and suddenly I discovered that I was feeling more doubtful than ever. I tried to shrug my shoulders and think that perhaps I was overthinking the situation, but the constant uncertainty continued to bother me for the next few days. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. My wife is increasingly secretive about her phone, and I find that she frequently puts it on silent or keeps it on through her conversations, giving her a feeling of wariness, especially when she's talking to my best friend. I reminded myself of our love connection and the life we had established together in an effort to assuage the growing doubts that were growing in. That same night, I had a same night on the bed, and she quickly pulled the blanket up to her chin. We chatted for a while before falling asleep. After what seemed like an eternity, I finally gave up trying to fall asleep and jumped in. Living room, I tried to understand my feelings while sitting alone in the room. In the dimly lit living room, I had mixed feelings about the choice I was about to make, but the anxiety in my chest forced me to take some action as I opened my laptop. I stopped for a second to consider whether I should actually try to access my wife's social media page. Media accounts using passwords that I previously knew. I knew I was walking on thin ice, and as a result I was overcome with guilt. I have always been a trusting person, and I have never before felt the urge to pry into my wife's private life. A series of recent events have shaken me to my core, making me question everything and anything. I was so nervous that my hands were shaking as I entered one of the passwords I'd known since we'd been dating. To my surprise, it worked well and gave me access to her messages. Only when I discovered that my wife and her best male friend had been sending each other videos of themselves engaging in dirty activities, but there was also a lot of adult trash in the mailbox hers. I was also surprised to learn that they did it in my bedroom as well. I'm also very curious about the whereabouts of both my daughters at that particular time as I kept scrolling. I found out that they had been doing this for a very long time, at least since the time my wife was expecting our second child. The conversation made it clear that the two of them had physical violence. Meeting at work and on occasion, even in our house and his, my attention was attracted by another conversation when I noticed that my name was used there when I seen that conversation. It made me feel nauseous. I discovered that my wife and 3 of her other friends had been conspiring to frame me for infidelity. Their motive being that my wife didn't want to be the guilty party and feel bad about herself. Bad. My wife encouraged a friend of hers to contact me to make it seem like she couldn't keep the secret any longer because it was too heavy. According to her conscience, she will then ask me to pretend to be sick so I can see her at her place. Then she will drug me and take pictures of me in uncompromising positions while covering her face indoors so she can use them later if necessary. You will see my wife come in looking startled and deceived. I was devastated that someone could go so low, but I took screenshots of all the important exchanges I saw, and that night I slept with my children the next morning. I wasn't even startled when I saw her going to work, and I didn't feel worried about why I slept away from her the night before on Sunday. I anticipated a call from one of my wife's friends as I already knew their plans, and as a result I gave in to her request and agreed to meet her. However, I added that for me to be there, her other 2 friends also needed to be there. Because I had something very important to discuss with both of them first. She was reluctant, but in the end she gave in and agreed. I checked my wife's social activity diary, media accounts, and saw that they were talking about making some changes in the agenda. But then my wife said that 3 is better than 1 because this means they should take meaningful photos, my compromise, with all 3 of them. And they should continue with the plan even though they only have to take pictures. I went to my wife's friend's house. While we were in the house, she acted like she was sick and stressed, and she offered me the stid. I took advantage of the situation and poured the drink into the sink. When all 3 of my wife's friends are together, it gives the impression that they are uncomfortable. I let them know that I was aware of their plot, and that I would not hesitate to destroy their personal and professional lives in any way that I could using the evidence that I said they don't know. I didn't want to do that, and then volunteered to help me collect evidence against my wife. But they lied the whole time without knowing that I had read all their malicious chats, so I informed them. Told them I don't want any of this to happen. Instead, I want them all to actually sleep with me so I can prove to my wife how she wants the world to see me. My wife's 3 best friends laughed at first because they didn't think I was being serious, but they quickly realized that I was. They started cursing at me and telling me I must be serious. I lost my mind and warned them that I would inform the husbands of the other 2 women about their terrible plot if they did not agree to go to bed with me after knowing that my wife was capable of great things. Something like that to trap me. I couldn't trust anyone else in my life again due to the fact that I knew what time my wife would arrive, so I made sure the front door was unlocked from the living room. I could hear my wife shouting to her friends that she was there and wanted to know how things were going when she walked in and found all 3 of my friends lying in bed with me in her face. Pale as she realized how badly her plan had failed, shrugged and turned back to the girls as she was left in stunned silence. They asked my wife to come with us even though I saw all her friends were drunk. I laughed and thought to myself how similar all the ladies were. Then my wife started getting mad at me and accused me of forcing all three of her friends. She also demanded to know what to do. How the hell could I do that to her? I have been controlling my anger since I found out about my wife's betrayal and plotting to trap me, but when she asked how could I do that to her, I lost my temper and scolded her back how she did it, how she betrayed me, and how she ruined a perfect family to the point that she had to stay silent when my wife started boasting again. I didn't say another word. Instead, I just took the key car and left the house as soon as I heard that she had nothing to say about her pouts. I stopped paying attention to what she was saying. It's been 6 months since the painful divorce between my wife and I. Me. Since I filed for divorce immediately after the incident, the breakup was emotionally difficult, and it took a while for the wound to heal. My wife was awarded custody of our younger daughter as part of the settlement, while I was given custody of our older daughter, despite how ugly they were. Divorce is that I decided not to inform my wife's employer about the affair between her and her co-worker. I knew that if I did so, she would be unemployed and that the subsequent divorce settlement could result in an uneven distribution of assets. So I decided instead to look for a solution that would be simpler, and we came to an agreement to divide our remaining assets equally to have a fresh start. I decided to move to another city. I started a new chapter in my life by renting the house we previously shared and transitioning to another job as a senior CO specialist from 10-0A M to 7-0P M. Settled in, and for the first time in a very long time, I allowed myself to be content with the here and now. I finally gave up thinking deeply about the future and instead focused on making the most of it, enjoying the pleasures of life currently. Even though I have severed ties with my ex-wife, I still can't help but feel hurt and betrayed when I conducted a DNA test on my little daughter, just for peace of mind and closure. It was confirmed that she was indeed my biological child when I realized that my wife had an affair during her pregnancy that left me with a lasting pain that was extremely difficult for me to overcome in one turn. Strange. A friend of mine who occasionally came to check on the rented house informed me that my ex-wife and the person she was having an affair with had ended their relationship. The reaction to this news was completely indifferent, and I decided not to get further involved in my ex-wife's affairs. I informed her that I could not accommodate her temporary transfer request because I felt it was necessary to put my personal health and safety at risk of my children before any other consideration. When I think back to the vengeance I first desired, I realize that it did not give me the satisfaction I expected to receive from it. It simply increased the internal anguish that was already within me. I deeply regret doing that, but I also realize that the only way to achieve true closure is to give up the desire for revenge. I didn't say anything to my wife's friends, nor did I mention anything to her about what happened to their husbands. Nor did I have any intention of taking revenge on my wife, man with whom my wife had an affair. But I believe that my wife's decision to continue living with him while we both took care of our daughter was enough. As the weeks turned into months, I worked hard to create a balanced and safe atmosphere for my daughter. I made sure to keep in constant contact with her, and did everything I could to make her feel loved and safe regardless. Although painful memories related to the end of my marriage, I was determined not to let those feelings overshadow the connection I had with my daughters. In addition, my little daughter also came to see me, and on this occasion both the elder and the younger sisters could come to see her.